In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a big look at the upcoming and pretty much ongoing at this point cooler pattern that we're going to be stuck in at least through the beginning of September. But now models are starting to trend at this lasting at least until about the 8th, maybe even the 10th of September. And I say at least because by that point, we're so far in the pattern that it will pretty much be up in the air what happens after that for at least the next few days to maybe even a week. We're going to be trying to figure out the 10th to the 15th or 10th to 20th. But if we're cooler from the 1st to the 10th of September, that's already a third of the month, which is going to put us in pretty strong position to finish up the total month of September on a below average note, one third of it at least. So let's dive into the tropics real quickly. We will talk about this for a second and also the overall storminess happening around the nation, but I do want to focus in on those temperatures. And as you can see, we have a lot of activity there in the eastern Pacific. We have our tropical storm Juliet. We have two areas of potential development, both at 0% chance of development over the next 2 days and both at 30% chance over the next 7. And then we, of course, still have tropical storm Fernand, which actually over time had been a very strong tropical storm, maxing out at about, it looks like 58 miles per hour, which is interesting at only 1,000 millibars. That's a pretty weak pressure system to be that strong in winds. So it is a pretty unique system. Let's go ahead and move into some of our model guidance though, and take a look again at that storminess and then that really extended period of cooler air that we expect for at least a week or two coming up soon. Here's the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the National Weather Service. And as you can see, for the 1st through the 5th of September, we do expect below normal temperatures, according to the National Weather Service, across most of your plains, Midwest, Ohio Valley, Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, even parts of the Northeast. A little bit warmer in a couple of corners here of the eastern states, but the really warmest area is this western area. We call this a positive PNA when the warm air sets over this region, and as you can see, a lot of times this causes cooler air to dive southward into the central and eastern states, which we see in full swing effect by this time frame. Looking at the 6 to 10 or 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, the 3rd through the 9th here, we still see this warmer feature out west. We still see the cooler feature, although they're pointing towards maybe more of a central look with this, with some of the more interior eastern states seeing some cooler air, but they're a little less bullish on the cold air for the immediate east coast. Of course, we're going to dive into the model guidance and form our own opinion, but this is the current outlook from, again, the National Weather Service. Here's the past 5 days of temperatures. We've been looking at this every single day, and you can see we have really shaped up to see a very intense positive PNA out west, and clearly cooler air for the central and eastern states here from August. I guess this would be August 21st through 26th now, but this is only the past 2 days of the cool down with 3 days of overall less cool conditions put together. When we do the 1 day anomaly here, it is pretty clear there is a very intense area of cold air sitting over these areas, and cold is relative, of course, but plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley here experiencing 10 to 15, maybe even 15 to 25 degrees below normal, which is certainly a huge departure from what we typically expect to see here in late August. Now, before we segue into the model guidance for the temperatures, I want to show you guys some of our upcoming storminess, and still it is relatively inactive. We have a few showers around here for eastern Canada into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. We also have some monsoon activity, as well as some precipitation spreading into the plains where thunderstorms will be possible. And periodically for the deep southeast, we'll see some thunderstorm activity, but really this is a quieter look, and really most days are going to look pretty similar to this. Even Wednesday here on the 27th, nothing really too notable here popping up. Thursday, same thing. We have a cluster of thunderstorms there between Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, but again, nothing major to point towards. Friday here on the 29th, you might notice that this feature that was originally over Missouri, Arkansas is kind of lower down towards the Gulf states. we're going to be watching for some nor'easter type flow as we're stuck in this cooler pattern. We're going to be watching for something like this to kind of just move up the East Coast. Pretty classic for a nor'easter type system. We see it kind of shaping up here at the bottom of our trough. We see a lot of energy going on here across those kind of northeastern Gulf areas into the offshore areas of the southeast. It's important to note that although this looks like a nor'easter on the model run, easily we could see this start to tropically develop. I've never heard it referred to as tropically develop, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. We could expect some tropical components to take place within this more nor'easter type system, and it could easily become more of a tropical depression, tropical storm type system, maybe even hurricane. But as of now on this model, it looks a lot more like a nor'easter to me. Kind of a classic look right there at the bottom of this trough developing right here. And you can see it goes ahead and sticks around for a little bit, gets some energy going, and then we start to see that low forming very close to the entrance of the Chesapeake Bay here by the 1st, 2nd of September. And then it moves more up into New England as a 999, 1 millibar stronger than what we ever saw Tropical Storm Fernand get down to. So again, this could easily be a tropical storm. Obviously might not be. It might be more of a nor'easter type system. But regardless, this is very interesting because literally on the 1st, 2nd day of September here, we're getting such fall-like weather. Cooler temperatures. We're getting a nor'easter here. This is just classic stuff happening right at the exact time we enter into meteorological fall, again, September 1st. Just pretty interesting to me. After this point, you might notice that our trough in the east, well, I'll just show you what the jet stream's doing here. We get this more major lowering of the trough here in the central states, and then it kind of just meanders in the east here, right? This original trough just is looking pretty weak, but we're about to get it reinforced again. The peak of this trough, the first one, right? Number 1 is right here. And now we have a second one right here trying to move in. So we're getting kind of like a multi kind of wave thing going on here. This first one was much stronger before this point on the 2nd, 3rd. This second one, though, is coming in with a vengeance. It's coming in with a cold front. It's got that classic low between the Hudson Bay and Great Lakes, which is an indicator of cooler temperatures moving in. Clearly has a bit of a cold front rolling in on the front end. Could experiencing some thunderstorms, severe weather along that. Would not surprise me one bit. This is at about days 8 through 9, so a little bit of a grain of salt with this. That one moves in, brings some immediate cooler air, and then we start to see something very interesting here on Saturday, the 6th of September. You might notice we're starting to see these blue lines popping up in Canada here. This is indicative of even further cold temperatures that are kind of moving down into Canada. This is just a clear sign that we have more intense Arctic air very close to the United States, because even with this trough here, this is back on the 28th, 2 days from now, there's no blue lines to be seen, right? We see a major dippage going on here in the east, but no blue lines. And then over time, we just start to see more and more of that Arctic air move in, get pulled in. And by the time we're looking at this point, it's clear that we've got our full-on Arctic jet down here in Canada, with more of a ridge look in the west, more of a trough look in the east. And right as we see this kind of like ascension of the jet stream right there, you notice just a lot of storminess taking place now for the southeast, mid-Atlantic, northeast corners. Pretty classic as well when we see the lift in that jet stream. That means it's kind of carrying more humidity and higher temperatures with it up and offshore of the East Coast. Meanwhile, we have cooler, less humid air pushing against it. So we're getting pretty good instability along there. Just fairly typical to see a lot of activity in that portion of a trough. And this is kind of where we end things off. I do want to see real quickly, I know we're going kind of off script here. I want to do the precipitation typing here and just see if we can notice any blues up there in Canada as this moves in. I don't think we do. Oh, there we go. Right at the end. So you can't see it on screen actually. I'll maybe pan it up if I can remember to edit it this way, but we see for Western Canada and some areas there to the west of the Hudson Bay, a couple blues popping up. So as this Arctic air pulls in, it is bringing below normal and below freezing temperatures to some parts of more central Canada, which is definitely interesting. So just wanted to kind of point that out. Total precipitation is looking a little bit better for a majority of the central and eastern states. We still expect less for the most part in these areas for the Midwest and into the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic. A little bit more for the Central Plains, deep south. And now we're starting to see Eastern Canada and the Northeast look a little better too. So when we look at the anomalies, we still have this good, healthy pocket. I should say unhealthy because it's a lot of below normal precipitation. But we do see still some above average amounts flourishing for the Rockies, parts of the plains, and then again the deep south. And then the Northeast as well as Eastern Canada doing a little bit better as well. But this is a messy look. It's kind of hard to break down like bigger overall regions seeing above or below average because it's really varying in small segments of the nation. So all over the place, we'll probably come to something more clear and concise not too long from now. Now, as we take a look here at the temperatures, we see cooler conditions around in the east here. Again, all the way through the 31st into the 1st. That's a Monday, so that's a week from yesterday. Still from that first trough. Now, by Tuesday the 2nd into the 3rd, we start to see that second one move in here. As you can see, a little bit more short-lived for the Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast. And then we get an even larger scale third one kind of trying to move in here. Meanwhile, up until this point on the 8th, you might notice we're just staying really, really warm along the west. That's a positive PNA, and it's just continuing to free flow those cooler temperatures straight in to the eastern and central states. That is the look here on the European model. I will say yesterday, this model showed a little bit of a different story, showing things warming up closer to the 5th, 6th, 7th. Now it's wanting to extend that cooler air, so we might see some back and forth here. The GFS model has been a little bit more consistent with a look similar to this. So there is still some doubt about, again, like after the 3rd, 4th, 5th time frame, but it does seem like we're leaning more and more towards cooler conditions lasting closer to the 10th than we originally thought. I think that's the premise here. GFS model, here's the current cool down. We see, again, it sticks around through the 1st, 2nd. We get a second one, in this case, much more major than the European model showed for the 4th, 5th, 6th. Then it even gets reinforced with perhaps a third one moving in. But this model does show warmer conditions moving in by the time we reach the 10th, 11th as of now. So we do start to see the warmth put up much more of a fight later on. It is important to note, this is a good 15 days from now. We are now in a full-on decline with our average temperatures for everywhere in the central and eastern states. And by this point, 15 days from now, it is very likely that your average temperature versus today on August 26th by September 11th will be a good 2, 3, 4 degrees lower than it is right now. So it is important to note that that is another factor to pay attention to. And of course, these temperature anomalies are based on the day that we're looking at, the average temperatures for that day. So temperatures, let's say in these oranges that are 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees above normal might just be average for late August because the average temperatures have gone down. So this doesn't mean it's going to be much, much, much hotter than it has been throughout the mid to late August timeframe. Might even be a little bit cooler if you're in the yellows, but if you're in the blues, it's certainly a lot cooler. I know it gets really confusing when we're talking about the averages, and then we're dealing with the declining of the averages as the days go on, as we approach into the fall and winter, and then trying to compare it to the average. I get a lot of comments about people saying, like, why do you use the averages? Why don't you use the actual temperatures? And I'll show you what it looks like, but really the problem, I don't know why I'm like breaking down so much stuff today, but it doesn't say the temperatures on screen, right, with Weatherbell here. That's one problem. Another thing is that with elevation and just different climates, I would have to take forever to break down, it's cooler in the mountains here, and then it's a little bit warmer in the desertous valleys, and then, so it would just take forever to break down. It'd be really, really hard for me to talk about things that are relative and relevant, really, for everybody in every single region in the United States. But when we're talking about the averages, it's just compared to your average. So all you have to know is what is average for September temperatures for you. The reds will indicate above, the blues will indicate below. I feel like it's a lot more smooth that way when we're talking about the whole lower 48. So that is the answer for why I don't use the exact temperatures very often when talking about the temperatures day in and day out. Hope it makes sense. With all that being said, Be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.